Welcome back, everyone. Let's continue to study the introduction of new structural regional economics. In this lecture, we continue to study Section 2 of Chapter 1, China's Gradual Development Strategy, mainly from the perspectives of China's coastal special economic zones and China's regional development strategy. First of all, we'll review China's economic development. This picture shows us the comparison of economic growth between China and the United States from 1960 to the present. Before China's reform and opening up in 1978, China's economy was of small scale, with a very low economic growth rate. During this period, China's per capita income was only at the low level. Since the reform and opening up in 1978, the Chinese economy has begun to grow at high speed. The scale of the economy has also gradually climbed up, which is called the China Miracle. After more than 40 years of reform and opening up, China has continuously surpassed UK, Germany, and Japan, becoming the world's second largest economy, trailing only the US. As of 2018, China's GDP was 92 trillion yuan, equivalent to 10,797 billion US dollars in constant price 2010, while GDP of United States was 17,856.4 billion US dollars. It can be seen in the 40 years since the reform and opening up, China has indeed achieved a very good economic growth. On the other hand, the changes in per capita GDP are consistent with the trend in GDP. After 1978, especially after 2000, China's per capita GDP grew rapidly, reaching 8,000 US dollars by 2018. While the per capita GDP growth of the US is relatively flat, and currently it has exceeded 50,000 US dollars. But if calculated according to the purchasing power parity, PPP, China's economic achievements are even more remarkable. What is purchasing power parity? PPP. PPP is the equating coefficient between currencies calculated according to prices in different countries. The purpose is to make a reasonable comparison of the GDP of each country. For example, the price of a hamburger is $2 in the US and is 3 yuan in China. And it means that $2 equals 3 yuan. In this example, the exchange rate of PPP between the RMB and US dollar is 1.5. So calculated by PPP, in 2018, the GDP reached 22,536 billion US dollars in China, while 18,229 billion US dollars in the US. And China's GDP, calculated by PPP, first exceeded that of the United States in 2014. Now let's take a look at China's economy in the view economic growth rate. From this picture, we can see before the reform and opening up, due to the instability of macroeconomic policies and the external environment, China's economic growth rate fluctuated greatly. But after 1978, China's economic growth began to maintain relative stability, with an average growth rate of 9.5%. In the meantime, the average growth rate of the U.S. was only about 2.72%. If China's economy can sustain this steady growth, it is expected to surpass the U.S. around 2030. In our previous lecture, we have learned that on both sides of the Hu line, there is obvious disparity of resources endowment, as well as the economic and social development. So under such a different factor endowment structure, how has China achieved the miracle of economic growth? This is what we're about to explore in this lecture. A long-term high-speed economic growth requires different regions to apply the comparative advantages such as inputs of labor force, capital, and techniques. Besides, new structural regional economics also puts forward that the role of a facilitating government is also important, which is to design a regional development strategy that fits the nation's development stage. That is to say, the regional development strategy should be adapted to the regional development stage. From this perspective, China's gradual regional development strategy has made a crucial contribution. It first originated from the special economic zones and economic development zones, and then extended to the regional development strategy based on the region sectors. It has laid a good foundation for rapid economic growth and high-quality development since the reform and opening up. This picture shows China's regional sectors divided into Eastern, Central, Western, and Northeastern regions. In fact, since the reform and opening up, what China has implemented is a East to West gradual development strategy. Specifically, before the reform and opening up, China put into a balanced regional development strategy, mainly based on the Soviet Union's productivity distribution theory, to carry out planar development. However, due to the poverty and weaknesses in China, the Chinese government, during limited time, had taken regional equilibrium as its development goal, and begun to shift a large amount of productivity to the inland, which laid a certain foundation to China's industrialization. But it also caused a serious problem, that is, the low economic productivity. After the reform and opening up, China started implementing the strategy of unbalanced regional development with efficiency first. From 1978 to 1990, based on the classical location theory and the principle of geographic division of labor, China focused on developing major cities. The main objective was to let cities in eastern China take the lead in development, make some people rich first, who will then bring along the rest to become rich too. However, with the implementation of such an unbalanced strategy, China's regional economic disparity had become gradually greater. Against this background, from 1991 to 2000, China began to focus on inland economic development step by step. During this period, it adopted the theory of comparative advantage and concentrated on industrial clusters in a point-line combined structure. In the 21st century, the economic disparity within China has widened further. Therefore, From 2001 to 2010, China started implementing the strategies of Western development and the rise of Central China, entering the comprehensive, coordinated regional development stage. Based on the neoclassical economic growth theory, China drove the pole axis development with the factor endowment. Since 2011, China has embraced the regional coordinated development of a new era. The focus of regional development is shifting to regional spatial governance. During this period, based on the structural change theory and regional innovation theory of new structural economics, nationwide development is being carried out with network mode. Overall, it is the gradual regional development strategy that has promoted China's sustained and rapid economic growth. Okay, that's all for the first part of Section 2. Thank you all.